Welcome to Key Considerations when you're pursuing a sale. This session is presented by Gridiron Capital and Ellsworth Advisors. Let's meet the panelists. First, Marshall Deneke, retired CEO, Performance Health, operating partner, Gridiron Capital. Next, Tim Klepper, President and CEO, Ellsworth Advisors, colleague companies. Welcome Tom Berger, founder, Gridiron Capital. And your moderator today is Callie Hapgood, Managing Director, Gridiron Capital. Callie, the virtual stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Now that you have a little background on everybody on the call, I think you're going to enjoy the perspectives of CEOs, former CEOs, people growing up in family businesses, private equity investors, investment bankers. So why don't we just dig into the topic at hand, key considerations when you're pursuing a sale. Tom Berger, could you start us off with some thoughts about things to keep in mind as you pursue a sale of your business?
Yeah, definitely. This is very important. Having grown up in my own family businesses and understanding not only how important the business was and the employees of the business, but also how important succession planning is and really plotting your path and planning for going forward. So as you think about options and you think about selling all or part of your business and having a partner, it's really important that you understand what that is going to look like as you get into it, because it is a little different than what you're used to. Here at Gridiron, we do this many times, and it's fairly intensive from a due diligence standpoint. So making sure your business is prepared from an accounting and an information and a key metric standpoint, that you've got a strong management team in place, that you are able to go ahead and have audits done of your financials, and just be ready with your own advisors. And I would really highly recommend you find advisors that know what they're doing. They've been around and they've helped other founders and business owners and families sell their businesses. So that helps a lot, rather than having somebody try to learn the way along with you.
That's really helpful. Now, Marshall, would love your perspective. I mean, you've been through this process before as a CEO. You're not only going through the process, but you're trying to make sure your business doesn't have any hiccups in the meantime. Can you walk us through what it's like from your perspective?
Yeah, thanks, Callie. Having led 3 of these sale processes as CEO, there's a lot to unpack here. I may reinforce a couple of the points Tom just made, but that's just because it's so important. First, I think your house needs to be in reasonable order, as strong as you can make it when preparing for a sale, including a strong finance team, both near and longer term strategic plans in place, and clarity in what you really want in a partner. And I'll just give you a hint here. It's not just about price. Make sure you're managing your business for profitability and not defaulting just to lifestyle. A good portion of the investment value of your business is going to be driven by a growing bottom line, right? It's that EBITDA march upward and to the right. Value in a business is not simply what you want it to be. So watch your fundamentals closely. Address any unprofitable operations or product lines now. If you leave those in place, they're going to be anchors that'll drag down your value and really allow for distractions during the process. Always establish and follow accounting policies and procedures. There's no greater buzzkill, and I've lived this dream. There's no greater buzzkill than accounting due diligence, discovering that your EBITDA is far less than you thought it was. Also, establish and maintain up-to-date files for your customers, your vendors, your employees. Not only is that good business practice, but it'll be tremendously helpful as you progress into detailed due diligence with your desired partner. And I'll give you a little hint. Detailed due diligence will be very painful if you don't have the basics well organized. A stark reality, and I'm probably singing to the choir here, but is that running a company sales process is essentially a full-time job and will be quite distracting to running your business. So take some thoughtful and intentional steps in advance that can really help. Identify some critical team members who will support you through this. And the way I would break this down is as follows. Have them take key roles in helping you run the business and keeping it running on all cylinders, even with the distractions of a sales process, as well as supporting you in the prepping and managing the sales process itself. While there will inevitably be some overlap on these people, strive for leadership dedication on these parallel paths. Don't select 4 people and have all 4 people involved in running the business and in selling the business. Split it up as much as you reasonably can so you don't have people up to their eyeballs on both sides of that fence. And I think final thought for now is just message control for employees and stakeholders is vital. Secrets can be hard to keep, especially in smaller organizations. And frankly, as your long-held behaviors suddenly change, you always have your office door open and then all of a sudden it's always closed. Simple things like that. People tend to invent and share their own stories to fill the gaps. And since excessive rumors can become an increasing distraction to organizational effectiveness, find ways to minimize those, allow the organization and your team to just focus on their priorities and just keep distractions out of this.
That's great. That's really helpful.
And just to add to Marshall, one other thing that I think is really important and not enough people do it, is really spend the time and think through, what you and the other owners are trying to accomplish and get out of a partnership, right? That's different things for different people. So, but spend the time, make sure you really are comfortable with that. Do you want to stay involved in the business on a day-to-day operating level? Would you rather just be on the board of the company, or are you just looking for a total exit? So you can, be retired and play golf or do whatever else is important to you. The other things to think about is what are your objectives? Is it legacy being protected? Is it the employees that have helped you get where you are, or is it the most money in the short term in the next few months? Or it could be just the most wealth build over the next 5 to 10 years, but all of those things then will relate to different partners and outcomes because they're going to bring different things.
I'd love to transition to picking the right partner, which is kind of the next step in the process, or thoughts around people who are interested in buying your business. But Tim, before we move in that direction, did you want to weigh in on any of these early remarks?
I think both Marshall's and Tom's are extremely well said. I would throw a couple other points out there as well as it relates to family. In every single transaction, different families handle this in different ways. As Marshall alluded, your life's going to change. The way you show up at the house, the way you go to, whether or not you're able to make it to the baseball game with the kid. That all changes when you go through a process. And I've seen people lose 40 pounds going through a sales process. It's a lot more than just the business of it. So I would encourage everyone to, as you look at that, to make sure that you're dotting those I's and crossing those T's as well. As Marshall said, your door suddenly closes. Well, imagine what that is like at home, right? So that's something that I think needs to be considered as well through this process.
That's great. So let's move through the process. You've gotten your house in order. You have several interested buyers. Tom, would you take a second to dig into thoughts around, picking the right buyer, what people should be thinking about and considering as they go through that process?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I spoke a little bit about this, but who the right partner and buyer is for you really comes down to who you are and what your objectives are. So really make sure you know yourself and your families or your co-owners' position on that, because that's going to be really important. So a couple of things, and I'll give you some examples. At Gridiron, we like to invest in companies where the ownership and the executives want to continue to be active to some degree. We want them to invest back into the business with us. But what we're providing is we're providing a liquidity event to diversify holdings, and also a partnership where we can work together and align to bring a lot of value and create much more wealth for all the shareholders, for you, your family, your co-owners, your management teams. And so, our approach is one where we take that very seriously. We have a different culture here at Gridiron, just based on our backgrounds of growing up in our own family businesses or being entrepreneurs and founders of our own businesses and senior and operating executives. So having done that, but at the same time investing with businesses for the last 27 years as an individual, and the last 16 as Gridiron, has really helped us, perfect and realize, that approach. And so I think from a cultural standpoint, what we are all about is having respect for everybody we come in contact, regardless of who they are. We are very focused on winning together. We're focused on making sure that there is alignment, that there is discussion, that this is a team approach. We're very focused on being able to get better every day at what we do. So a spirit of, we may be doing things great, but a spirit of trying to get better and doing things better every single day. So a lot of the people we've worked with, say that they really enjoyed their time with Gridiron, but those relationships go on and on well beyond our ownership. And so I think that speaks a lot. Many of those individuals then invest along with us, or they have different roles or sit on boards of our companies. And that personal connection means a lot to us. I think the other things that you should look for is a partner that really does understand what a good company is to invest in. And so when you think about investment criteria, people have different investment criteria, what they're looking for. Here we also have what we call our thematic areas of expertise. And so we put teams on different niches within the three broad areas we invest in. So broadly, it's brand to consumer, it's business to business and business to consumer services, it's niche industrial, but within each of those, we have 15 very fine niches and industries that we've built a strong expertise in and can bring immediate resources and help. And so, again, that's a collaborative effort. But if we know the business that you're in and the industry you're in, that allows us to be more helpful and productive rather than you having to teach us every single thing. And I think that the last part is that once we are investors together, really focusing on where we want to take the business. So before we would even close on an investment, we'd want to make sure from a high level vision and strategy standpoint, we're aligned, we're excited, the team's excited. But once we do close, getting that to the next stage, which is, we have a proprietary process. It's very efficient, but it's bringing everybody together. So it's the owners and the management team, and it's the board of directors that we've all put in place together. It's the Gridiron team, and laying out very specific strategy plans on what we are going to do and what we're not. So by doing that, we're then able to focus and leverage what we call our Gridiron playbook, which is a set of repeatable processes that we've done over and over again very successfully. And then we're able to go ahead and leverage what we call our centers of excellence. So, these are, areas where we have very strong operating partners or former CEOs lead and help us develop, really good research and knowledge and third parties to use where we can, use that collectively to move things forward. And so, any single company isn't going to utilize all of those, but the ones that match with the strategy plan are very helpful. So I think, as you think about that, some owners, they're looking for the right partner, somebody that they're going to enjoy working with every day, somebody that their management team is going to enjoy working with every day. They're looking for, the legacy, so that the companies, your reputation and notoriety, increases as we move forward. They're looking for a partner that's going to treat their employees, respectfully and give them opportunities to expand and do well financially. And then, where we shine, I think, is we have those two things, but we really do well at partnering with founders that are focused on creating the most wealth over the next 5 to 10 years, rather than just somebody that's looking to get the most money, today out of this transaction, and then is kind of mentally moved on. So I think as you think about things, that all gets back to what do you want? What do you really want to accomplish out of this? And then partners are very different. And coming from family businesses and having done this so long, one of the hardest things for you to do is decide who really is going to be your right partner. Because if you're meeting with different firms or groups, don't forget, they're putting their best face on, their best foot forward. They're trying to sell you as much as you're selling them on them being your right partner. So really doing the homework, spending time with the different teams, understanding who they really are. So, doing references with people that, we and others have worked with before, spending time, having meals, and make your own decision. But it's not easy because you got to get beyond just what people are showing as you go through the process.
That's great detail, Tom. And it's really nice to hear about all the wonderful upside potential of a partnership as you bring in a new investor. Marshall, you've been through this a few times as a CEO. It'd be really interesting if you could compare and contrast your different experiences and the highlights of some and things that you wish you had known before you went into them.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. Listening to Tom, I realize I'm kind of a microcosm of a number of the elements he was just describing. As CEO of Performance Health, I was over the business alongside 3 successive private equity firms, and Gridiron was the meat in that sandwich, right? They were the middle. And as an aside, when I walked away when I resigned from Performance Health and decided I wanted to migrate more into board and advisory work, the only firm I called was Gridiron because of the relationships, because of that trust, because of that respect. It is about the long haul with Gridiron. But to your specific point, Kelly, of multiple sales processes, by the way, with different types of investors, there's much more than just getting the highest price. Now, one caveat, I always approach this from the perspective of I'm continuing. My management team is continuing. We are continuing to build. So we were always looking for who is the partner that's going to help us do that. And the thoughts I would share in that context are, first and foremost, and this is reaffirming what Tom just emphasized, closely observe potential partners and investors. Just watch them. Don't listen to just what they say, but in particular, watch what they do. How do they spend their time? How do they treat people? Do they follow through and do what they say they will do from day one? I mean, that's a big, telling insight. What are their backgrounds, experiences, and track records? How do those align with your vision and strategies? Have they ever been in your shoes? Have they been part of operating a business day to day? Do they get it? Or are they kind of sitting behind computer screens managing a business by spreadsheets? Because the interactions are very, very different. What is their investment philosophy? How do they make money and create value with businesses? And specifically, what is their plan for making your company more valuable? And how does that align with your vision? I know for me, with Gridiron, we shared our vision, and Gridiron, I won't say Gridiron bought into it, Gridiron aligned with it. It was their vision as well. And we set to work building a business. It wasn't about, hey, what can we do to optimize the value of the company? It was, how do we build a business? And oh, by the way, as you successfully build a business, you create tremendous value. How does this potential partner work with management employees? As you spend more time with them, do you like them more or less? And you will spend time with them through this process, right? Through a dinner, through a management presentation, in particular through detailed due diligence. And I think that's telling. because oftentimes the more senior folks kind of disappear and you get an insight into what the day-to-day will be like. And as you have that, do you respect them more or less? Do you trust them more or less? And one gauge for me through those ongoing interactions was just imagining upcoming quarterly board meetings and normal routine conversations with each of the potential partners, and just taking my own pulse of, as I contemplated on that, did it generate enthusiasm about what we could accomplish together, or did it make my skin crawl? And I've had both experiences. Just trust your judgment based on all of those interactions and migrate towards the folks who are going to help you become a better you and help your business become a better business.
That's fantastic. Now, Tim, you have been in and around many different processes. Could you, as a jumping off point, tell us what can go wrong? So what do we need to be mindful of as we start this process?
Well, if we had about 3 hours, I could go everything, but seeing that we have got 10 more minutes, I'm going to be very abbreviated. But, talking with Tom and Marshall mentioning he's a microcosm in the situation, I'm even a bigger microcosm. What's unique about my role is that, since 1997, I've been in the investment banking business, the private equity business, and the wealth management business all at one time. So I've seen pretty much every angle and been at every table and thousands of dinners with people like Tom and Marshall and sitting on both sides. But here's a couple things that I would say as key takeaways and getting off the stage here quickly. Number one, realize that this is 100% a partnership. If you're doing this to sell your money and put money in your checking account, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. That won't work. One of the things that you have to realize is once you get into becoming owned by a professional company like a Gridiron and many others out there, you're in a stream. And that streams are rapid, and that rapid is going down. I mean, it's like going, right? So whether you're in that boat with Gridiron for 1 year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, it's not going to be 20, right? I mean, it's just, that's the way it works. So you have to be ready to be in the stream and with the right partner for the right reasons. And I will go as far as to say this. If I could do everything over, whenever I sat across the table with the guy or the people that were giving us the highest amount of money, I would have gone to number 2 immediately. It's not about the money. It's not about how much money I'm telling you, out of the hundreds of these I've been through, that does not work. So my advice would just be, get ready to see things that you can't even imagine are coming. But make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. And know once you do get in it, once you get in the boat, you're staying in it.
So say if you go with that highest price, I mean, what can happen? Do people retrade? I mean, what are some of the dangers with that highest price person?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the reality is a lot of times at the table, literally at the dinner table, right? You get a price that is the highest price, and the company is just the company might need it. The investment company might need it for a whole lot of reasons that you don't even know about, right? That don't align necessarily with what you're trying to do, right? So at the end of the day, I mean, deals fall apart. It happens. It happens in every transaction. I can tell you that in my history, the success that Gridiron has had with entering into the LOI phase to the close phase is nearly 100%. Throw a little commercial in there for you, Tom, if not 100%.
Thanks, Tim.
But that's a big deal. The retrade of it, or at the 11th hour, the company's backing down, or they're not giving you the ad back that you think you deserve, or whatever. There's outs that these companies have, and it's a real problem. So if you're brand new at this, I would just test this theory. Get the highest price, and then go to the next one in line and start building a relationship.
Yeah, I think, Tim, some good points because, from our standpoint, reputation is everything. And so we want to make sure that, we're listening a lot, that we're very cognizant of what we're doing. So even when we're getting to know each other and we're thinking about offers and valuation, we put a lot of thought into it. There's a lot of painstaking thought and analysis that goes in to say, what is an offer that we are 100% confident that we'll be able to stand behind and get done? Because we understand, having been on the other side, what a detrimental thing it is when somebody decides that either they're going to step away or they're going to try to reduce the value or they're going to retrade. And that's no way to put a business owner or a founder or family in a bad position like that. And it's also no way to start a relationship if for whatever reason it defaults to that. And so I can't count the number of times I've had owners and business owners and families and founders come back after they've decided to go with somebody that was a little higher and said, you know what, if I would have known then what I know today, 12, 24 months later, I really wish I would have gone with Gridiron. And I'm not just saying that because when I hear that, it hurts because, having come from a family business, I understand that. And I wish, there was a way for all, founders and people selling their business to get more, exposure and transparency to know who they're really partnering with.
Yeah. Tom, I got to here, Marshall, real quick, and then this will take me 30 seconds. But the reality too is, keep in mind that a lot of times you're an entrepreneur. You've not gone down this road before. You're learning how to. I mean, this is your nest egg. This is where your liquidity is tied in. You're going into a brand new world. So we have a term called second bite of the apple here that we use. When you get in the stream, right, it's not the first liquidity chunk that you get that it is the biggest one most times. It's literally the start of a long-term liquidity process. And as the company grows and the power of their partners unfold, your second bite and your third bite and your fourth, that's where it ends up going. And you stand back and whoo, am I ever glad I didn't go with because that was minuscule really compared to the bigger picture. So I want to make sure we throw that term out there too, for everybody that's watching to learn about.
Yeah. And Kelly, if I can just piggyback, I was just going to make that same point. We keep talking about it's not about price. It's not about price. Well, of course it's about price, right? Of course it's about wealth creation. But the point is, if you take the longer view, and in my example of having worked with 3 successive private equity firms and continuing to roll and continuing to invest and continuing to get those returns, when you pick the right partner, it's not just about the highest price up front. It's about the highest value, the greatest amount of wealth you're going to create over a longer time horizon. That's why it's critical to pick the partner that's going to help you build the business, the partner that understands your business, and frankly, the partner that understands that it's not just about money, right? Culture matters, team matters, family matters, and businesses have a soul. So you can't put a price on that. And you take that whole package over time. That's how you pick your partner.
That's great. Now, as somebody's trying to figure out which partner to pick, would you say other CEOs that private equity firm has worked with are good references? And do you know some things they might say? I think both Tim and Marshall might have some perspective on this.
Yes, absolutely. You've got to make sure that the people that you're talking to are your trusted inner circle. But that's why you're able to build. You have networks you can build that you can ask pretty pointed questions and get some good references and good referrals. And then talking with the CEOs, talking with the people that work in administration, look, you got to talk to pretty much everyone. Find out a way to get in to talk to everyone somehow. before you pull the trigger. I really believe that.
Yeah, that's awesome, Tim. And just backing up a half a step, there's a lot of strong opinions out in the world about private equity. I know I got a lot of solicited and unsolicited advice. Private equity is this, private equity is that. I'll tell you what I've learned, this fundamental truth. If you have met one private equity firm, you have met one private equity firm. They're all different. It's all a function of the leadership and the culture and the skills and the capabilities. So ignore all of the external noise from the semi-experts who honestly don't know what they're talking about. Do your own due diligence. Callie, to your point about references, I absolutely spoke with CEOs who did a full cycle, multiple CEOs who did a full cycle, and it's remarkable. Talk to 3 of them, 4 of them, they will all tell you the same story every time.
Yeah.
Because you don't coexist for 5 years with a partner and not really learn them inside and out. I went so far as to then identify some former CEOs that weren't offered up as references just in case I got a different story. Guess what? The story was the same. Make those calls, ask those questions, understand what that firm is all about. And remember, if you've met one, you've only met one.
And again, I'm passionate about this big time. Marshall is a professional CEO. Like, he's been the CEO of many businesses. You could take Marshall out of where he is today and put him in at, a big shoe company or a big software. He's going to be the CEO of that company. He knows what he's doing. So Marshall pretty much knows everybody. So if you're somebody that's looking to get in the stream, you need to find your own Marshall if you don't already have Marshall, because professional CEOs that have been doing this for a long time and have been successful, and they're not all over, they're out there. Those are great resources for you to use.
Well, Tom, I'd love to put you in the hot seat for a minute. Both Marshall and Tim said if you've met a private equity firm, you've met one. So how is Gridiron different? And if you could spend some time talking about your personal background and how that's shaped the way you have, founded and run Gridiron, I think that'd be very interesting for the audience.
Yeah, no, definitely happy to, Callie. And to give you just a little sense. So my mother's parents, they were founders of a business. My grandfather had to start working after 5th grade to help support his family back in the Depression. And he founded a manufacturing company, and my father then separately had his own specialty retail chain of stores. And so growing up, and literally from the time I was school aged, after school, weekends, summers, I was expected to work in those companies. And so I remember working on the factory floor, and some of the employees that were out there with me were parents of the kids I was playing sports with. And so they were like, what are you doing out here working so hard? Your grandparents own this business. And I said, well, if you're asking me that question, you obviously don't know them very well yet. So, at a young age, I didn't necessarily appreciate having to work and the work that I was given. But now I realize that the great lessons that provided me. So I'm very thankful. So I did that, growing up, and I think they mentioned in my intro, I ended up going to Duke on a football scholarship. I played football there and studied mechanical engineering and materials science. And then I spent my time around manufacturing companies. And then I did some consulting, some work with companies on the consumer side, the service side, but ultimately got into private equity. And my goal was always to have my own business, just like my family. I never knew it was going to be private equity as my business, but I love, I love partnering with successful founders and families. I love the work and creating, something special and value for everybody. And so, that background, I think, helps differentiate Gridiron. And so many of the people on the Gridiron team have some aspects and similar backgrounds where they have been entrepreneurs and founded their own businesses. they have been part of their family businesses, like Callie growing up. They have been senior and operating executives. And so having that basis, having been in your shoes as well as on the investment side, I think gives us a really unique perspective. And so I think, it's part of the reason too that there's so much empathy for founders and family businesses, that we want to make sure that the integrity is there, that the trust is there, that the respect is there, and we want to help them be successful. And so, I'll make the offer. I mean, even if you're not ready to find a partner or sell some of your business, we are always happy to be helpful. So, let us know if there's anything you have questions about, anything that, you want to bounce off of us, any way we can be helpful, we'd be more than happy to do that. And then at some point, if you do feel you want to partner, we'd be more than happy to speak with you, but that's not a requirement for reaching out and spending time with us before. So we're different how we look at this. We're not doing deals. We're not doing transactions. We really are investing with and partnering with people. And that's what our business is about. And it means a lot to us. And the people we're investing on behalf of are really counting on all of us to do well too. So we look beyond, just institutions, but we're investing for sick children at the Children's Hospital. We're investing for retirees. We're investing for, grant recipients and students. And so, those things are really important to us because they're counting on us so that they have the things they need for life.
That's great. And Marshall and Tim, do either of you have, one last closing thought before we go on to the live Q&A?
Go ahead, Marshall.
It's for those of you listening in here today, you may be contemplating a big decision, a big choice. I would say, what? Have fun with it. Don't focus on what could go wrong. Focus on what will go right as you make the right choice. And the critical element, if by chance you've missed it in the last 30 plus minutes, is the key here is finding the right partner who aligns with you, your vision, your goals, your aspirations, and just be really thoughtful about that. Take the time that you need to take to make sure you're making that right decision. And if you make that decision right, the rest, it'll take care of itself. It's not a walk down the path of rose petals and, puffy white clouds and every day is full of butterflies. There's challenges, there's issues, but with the right partner, you're facing them together. They're our challenges and we're going to overcome them. And I think it's just an exciting time. It's an exciting time to reinvent yourself, reinvent your business, and build something even greater.
Both very well said. I think I would say get ready to learn. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care where you went to college. I don't care how many times you've gone through this. You're going to learn new stuff and it's going to blow your mind. It's like, why am I, 52 years old? I'm just learning this now. I've been doing this for 30 years or whatever. You're going to learn. And so I would say, please, as you start this process or as you go through the process, keep an open mind. You're going to be dealing with some rock star people with all kinds of backgrounds and all kinds of education and all kinds of experiences, and soak that in because you'll be able to use that both personally and professionally, and it will be priceless.
Yeah, I think one of the neat things here is that, obviously we bring a great breadth of knowledge and examples because we've worked with so many companies and partnered with them. What you all bring is you bring success, being a successful entrepreneur and business owner and leader. You bring all that experience of what you've learned to build that business and the industry experience. And those are things that, we're never going to be able to, even get close on. But what we see is when you put what we bring and what you bring to the table together, that's where the learning comes from, because the ideas, the generation, the alignment from doing that is very powerful.
Well, thank you all three so very much. And we hope our audience will stick around and join us in the live Q&A. I'm sure there were questions that came up that we didn't answer. So we look forward to answering them now. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thanks
for
everyone.
joining us.